Let's get back to Intel. CEO Pat Gelsinger will leave the job after a turnaround plan he began back in 2021 has sputtered. The stock is down a little over 50% year to date as two interim co-CEOs take over. Joining us now to discuss, we've got Olivier Blanchard, Futurum Group practice lead for devices. Olivier, thanks so much for being here for us this morning on this developing news here. Talk to me about what you anticipate the first change moving forward for Intel looking like.
Thanks for having me this morning. Big news, a little sudden. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. So I think that may be something that we want to talk about also at some point during the segment. I think the first thing is to hopefully assure the market that everything is going smoothly, everything is on the right track. I'm not sure that Intel's communication so far on this has been as clear as it could have been. But at the very least, you have two interim CEOs right now that are very competent. I think that the very first step, though, is going to be to find the next CEO, the next leader of Intel, and put it on the right path to recovery and growth.
Olivier, so many questions for you here, but I want to stick on the point that you just raised, that it actually came as a surprise to you, because that was a bit surprising to me. Why did you not see this coming?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit scrambling this morning, I think, to make sense of this, because there were no indications, right? It's not like Pat mentioned 6 weeks ago or 6 months ago, hey, I'm going to just go through the 4-year plan and then exit. There were no like real clear signs that this was coming. So obviously, a lot of people are busy reading the tea leaves this morning and trying to figure out what exactly precipitated this exit. And there are a lot of good theories about this, right? I mean, obviously, Intel has missed on a few things. It missed on AI a little early, although it was catching up. It hasn't been doing as well as probably the board and investors might like in the last year. But also, I think, for Pat, I think it was a bit of a passion project, and not just being the CEO of a company, but seeing it through. And I think he had a very clear vision of where Intel needed to go. And so for him to exit this quickly, or this suddenly, rather, I feel that there must have been some, not misunderstanding, but some differences in opinions about where the company needed to go and how. And that probably had something to do with the business. Some members of the board wanting to split the business between Foundry and design. I think that's probably the most likely culprit. On top of just executing quickly.
Yeah, I was talking with Patrick Moorhead, another analyst in the chip space, about that this morning, and he indicated that Foundry business being a potential sticking point as well. If the board did want to move forward with the Foundry business being spun off on its own, what do you anticipate the impact that would be on Intel from a shareholder perspective?
Well, Intel hasn't been doing as well, as I mentioned, as it could, and especially against rivals like NVIDIA. They got a very early start in AI, so I think it would be good and bad. On the one hand, it would prevent some regulatory action that you might see from regulators on Intel just having too much control over the supply chain and maybe seeing some issues there. I think it would make investors happy initially. It would be a huge injection of cash for Intel, for the remaining Intel business. There's no positive or negative here. There's just two different tracks and two different decisions that Intel is going to have to ultimately decide what they're going to do there.
Olivier, what do you think Intel is going to be looking for in its next CEO? How do you see that search process playing out?
That's a really good question. Well, they have two really good interim CEOs right now. Michelle has been at Intel since, I think, 1996. She's run CCG. She's run basically every organization there. She's a proven sales leader, so she's very capable. And then the other one, David, is the CFO. So he definitely has a good take on the numbers. So I don't know. It's possible that they go with one of them as the next CEO. It's possible that they could pull somebody from somewhere else. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a reason that Pat came back 3 years ago to run Intel. It's because Intel's a very difficult company to run. It's a very complicated business, and it's going to be really difficult to find a CEO just from another tech company to come run it. And turn it around quickly. And I think speed here is of the essence. I think that whatever precipitated Pat's exit, must have had something to do with the speed at which Intel was making its turn, right, into AI. And so starting from scratch with a brand new CEO who hasn't had a lot of experience with Intel specifically might not yield that velocity that some of the board members who might be inclined to look for velocity are looking for. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting few months for sure.
To that end, do you think the speed of the turnaround plan is part of the reason that this retirement happened now as opposed to when they did already have a replacement CEO squarely in mind?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I think, Pat had a 4-year plan. We're not quite at the end of that 4-year plan yet. We've cut it short as of yesterday. So I think, speed is always difficult to execute, especially with a company as large as Intel and as complex as Intel on a global scale. So velocity is, I think Intel was doing fine in terms of speed. I think it still has some crosswinds to deal with in terms of definitely catching up to NVIDIA and AI. Also on the client side, right now one of the issues that I see is with Intel's new Core Ultra chips being made by TSMC instead of being made by Intel itself is something that's still a year away, I think. So whether Pat had remained CEO or somebody else comes in to take his place, the pace is the pace, and the pace of innovation, the pace of execution is what it is. So I don't think that anybody's going to make things happen much quicker in terms of the product development anyway and the execution of that.
So Olivier, for investors who are not currently shareholders of Intel, what should they be thinking about today? Is this a buying opportunity?
Well, everything's a buying opportunity. But yeah, sure. I think the fundamentals of Intel are strong as a business, and I think that its prospects are still very positive. And a company like Intel is often, I think, not just misunderstood, but I think people sleep on Intel just because it's been a little bit late to the game with a few things, and it's had a few misses. But it's an extremely strong, extremely resilient, and extremely embedded company in so many different, really like high growth verticals, whether it's client or data center. So I think, Intel is always a good opportunity. And at the very least with this, you have the opportunity for renewal and an opportunity for change. And that could be a really positive thing, yeah.
Olivier Blanchard, always great to get your insight. Futurum Group's at practice lead for devices. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Thank you.